Some stories aren't meant to be told. Not because they're forgotten, but because they're still happening. What you're about to hear isn't fiction. It's a true story, twisted, tragic, and buried beneath the moss and shadows of Blackwood Forest. But once you hear it, you won't sleep the same way again. There are silences that speak louder than any scream. Short paused silences that creep under your skin, cling to your bones, and never let go. Medium paused. The silence of Blackwood Forest was one of them. A heavy, ancient silence that seemed to hold its breath, waiting. Long pause. We ignored it. We should have listened. My name is Elias Thorne. 3 years ago, my wife, Sarah, and I, with our 7-year-old daughter, Lily, moved into a small, isolated house, nestled on the edge of this forest. We were looking for peace, tranquility, far from the city's hustle and bustle. Short pause. We found something else. Something that found us. Something that was waiting for us, lurking in the shadows of the century-old pines, long before we arrived. The house was charming, with its stone walls covered in ivy and its slate roof worn by time. It smelled of old wood and damp earth, a comforting scent at first. Short pause. Lily loved the large garden, bordered by the imposing trees that formed a dark, impenetrable barrier. She spent hours exploring, inventing stories with her dolls, under the benevolent gaze, we thought, of nature. We didn't know that this gaze was already turned towards her, with an unhealthy curiosity. But nature, here, was not benevolent. It was patient. It was waiting. Medium pause. The first signs were subtle, almost imperceptible. Noises. Creaks in the walls, which we attributed to the old wood settling. Murmurs, carried by the wind through the bare branches in winter, which we took for the rustling of leaves. Short pause. Sarah, more sensitive than I, began to feel uneasy. She said the house was cold, even with the heating on full. A coldness that wasn't physical, but that came from within, she said. A feeling of emptiness, of an invisible presence that sucked the warmth from the room. Short pause. I reassured her, talking about the country's humidity, the necessary adaptation, the new life we were building. I forced myself to believe it. Lily, she said nothing. But she drew. Short pause. Strange drawings. Dark silhouettes, with empty eyes, hiding behind the trees. Distorted faces, as if carved into the bark, watching her. Twisted, barely human shapes, sneaking between the trunks. Short pause. When I asked her who they were, she always gave the same answer, in a soft, distant, almost ethereal voice. The forest's friends, Daddy. They talk to me. They tell me stories. Medium pause. My heart tightened, a glacial shiver ran down my spine, but I put it down to her vivid imagination. Children have fertile imaginations, don't they? An imagination that, sometimes, sees what adults refuse to see. One evening, as I was working late in my study, the light from my bedside lamp casting dancing shadows on the walls, I heard a sound. A distinct sound. Not a creak, not a murmur. Short pause. A song. A soft melody, almost a lullaby, but with an underlying dissonance, a deep melancholy, that seemed to come from the hallway. Short pause. I got up, my heart pounding in my chest. Sarah was asleep. Lily too, I hoped. Short pause. The song stopped abruptly when I opened my study door. The hallway was empty, plunged into darkness. I turned on the light. Nothing. Just the heavy silence, again. A silence that seemed to mock me. Short pause. I checked Lily's room. She was sleeping soundly, her small hand clutching her favorite doll, an enigmatic smile on her lips. I shook my head, telling myself that fatigue was playing tricks on me, that my mind was betraying me. Days turned into weeks, weeks into months. Fatigue was no longer playing tricks on me. Short pause. The song returned. More often. Louder. It seemed to call. A hypnotic, irresistible melody. And Lily answered. Short pause. I caught her several times, sitting by her window, her eyes fixed on the forest, murmuring incomprehensible words, phrases in a language I didn't know, an ancient, guttural language. When I questioned her, she looked at me with an expression I had never seen on her face. An expression of emptiness, of distance, as if her soul had retreated far behind her eyes. As if she wasn't quite there. As if a part of her was already elsewhere, in that forest, with her new friends. Her new invisible friends, who were pulling her towards them, a little more each day. Sarah was increasingly anxious. Her nights were haunted by nightmares, shifting shadows in the corners of the room, whispers that seemed to seep under the door. She barely slept, her eyes dark-rimmed, her face pale and drawn. She also heard the noises, the murmurs. She felt the presence. A heavy, oppressive presence, that weighed on the air, making every breath difficult. She said something was watching us, waiting for us, with infinite patience and insatiable hunger. Short pause, she wanted to leave. She pleaded, tears in her eyes, to leave this house, this cursed forest. I refused. I couldn't. This house was our dream, our new beginning, the culmination of so many years of work and sacrifice. I didn't want to admit that this dream was turning into a nightmare. I didn't want to admit that I was wrong, that I had made the wrong choice in bringing us here. And then, there was the night everything changed, the night the veil tore, revealing the horror that awaited us. It was a moonless night, of such profound darkness that it seemed to absorb all light, all hope. The wind howled through the trees, a mournful, plaintive sound, that echoed throughout the house, rattling the windows and groaning the old beams. Short pause, I was woken by a scream. A piercing, tearing scream, Sarah's scream, filled with pure, primitive terror. I rushed out of bed, my heart pounding against my ribs, a mad drum in my chest. Lily's bedroom door was open, gently flapping in the draft. The room was empty. The bed unmade, the sheets crumpled as if a struggle had taken place. The window wide open, the curtains fluttering wildly in the icy wind, like dancing specters. Short pause, Sarah was there, frozen on the threshold, her hands over her mouth, her eyes wide with horror, staring outside. She pointed at the window, unable to speak, only hoarse sounds escaping her throat. Short pause. I approached, my blood freezing in my veins. The icy wind rushed in, bringing with it a smell. A smell of freshly turned earth, dead leaves, and something else. Something sweet and putrid at the same time, a smell of decomposition, of decaying flesh, but also a strangely floral fragrance, like withered lilies. A smell that caught in your throat, permeated you, marked you. I looked outside. The forest. Dark, impenetrable, its trees standing like skeletal fingers towards the sky. Short pause, and there, in the distance, between the tree trunks, I thought I saw a small white silhouette. Lily's nightgown. She was moving away, walking slowly, with a regular, almost mechanical pace, as if hypnotized, towards the depths of Blackwood. Medium pause, and the song. The song was there. Louder than ever. An obsessive, repetitive melody, that seemed to draw her, call her, guide her towards her destiny. I rushed outside, barefoot on the cold, damp earth, calling her name, my voice lost in the howling wind, in the forest song. Sarah followed me, stumbling, crying, her sobs muffled by the wind. We ran, but the forest seemed to expand, the trees closing behind her, engulfing her, pulling her into its dark entrails. We searched. For days. Weeks. The police, the volunteers, their flashlights piercing the darkness, their voices echoing in the silence. Nothing. No trace. Just the silence of the forest, a mocking silence, that seemed to taunt us. Short pause, and that smell. That smell that lingered, even after the search had been abandoned, even after the rain had washed the earth. The smell of earth, leaves, and that macabre sweetness, that fragrance of death and flowers. Short pause, I still smell it. Every night. It has permeated the walls of the house, our clothes, our souls. It has become a part of me, a constant reminder of what I lost. Short pause, Sarah left. She couldn't bear it. Grief, fear, madness consumed her. I stayed. I can't leave. I'm bound to this forest. To this silence. To this waiting. Sometimes, at night, when the wind howls, I still hear the song. And I see Lily's drawings, her innocent creations turned into macabre prophecies. The dark silhouettes. The faces in the bark, their empty eyes staring at me in the darkness. Short pause, I now know who the forest friends are. And I know what they want. They didn't just want Lily. They wanted the house. They wanted us. They wanted everything. And got what they wanted. Medium pause, I am the last. The last to hear the whisper. The last to smell the scent. The last to wait. Short pause, because Blackwood's silence is not empty. It's full. Full of those who listened. And of those who should never have come close. Long pause, and sometimes, when the wind calms, when the forest seems to hold its breath, I hear a new sound. A laugh. A child's laugh. Clear, crystalline, but filled with a perverse joy. Coming from the deepest part of the forest. Short pause, and I know she's there. With her new friends. And she's waiting for me. Her too. She's waiting for me to join her in Blackwood's eternal silence. If you felt a chill listening to this, you're not alone. Blackwood Forest still stands. And many say the silence there still whispers at night. If this story disturbed you, imagine what else is waiting to be told. Subscribe for more true horror stories that should never have been uncovered. And remember, some forests don't forget. And they never forgive.